I'd like to open the meeting with a prayer. May all beings everywhere, regardless of race, religion, nationality, be filled with peace and love. May our hearts be open to one another, embracing our shared humanity. May we work together to create a world where compassion overcomes, where understanding replaces division. May we strengthen our diversity, unity in our common goals. Let kindness and empathy guide our actions, and may we recognise the divine light in each and every one of us. May we live in harmony, cherish the earth and all that dwell upon it. Right. Welcome, everybody. I just follow orders from a team leader there. Follow orders from. Right. Now, we'll just move into apologies. First of all, I'll give an apology for Kerry Sullivan, our chair. And the sad news on Kerry, on his holiday, he contracted COVID. Oh, no. So, yeah. So, an apology. Any further apologies? Right. Thank you. I've got Tracy moved it. Okay. Right. Public forum. We have no public. Oh, sorry. Councillor Chase. Thank you. All those in favour? Right. Public forum. We have no public forum. Notifications of items not on the agenda. None. Any declarations of conflict in the interest in relations to this meeting or items of business? None. Right, we'll just confirm the minutes. Right, for the minutes, we'll go through. I've got page 3, page 4, page 5, and page 6.
I'll second.
Scott and Peter. Thank you. Right, well, and all those in favour? Carried. Yeah, this is going well. Report. So we'll move straight into it. The reports with my good friend beside me here. 7.1. So over to you, Hamish.
Thank you, Chair Steve. So I'll take the report largely as read, and I'll invite the team leaders to come up. So starting with Dan to have a chat about transport. Have a silent moment. So the team have combined in the recovery, the roading recovery into this one report because there was quite an overlap between them and the decisions they're making for the whole network. That made sense. So that's why there's not one of those this time around.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Hamish mentioned, I'll take the report largely as read, but just a high-level summary. I just want to touch on the CCNZ award that the Tauranga District Council and Downer is the partnership of the Alliance won back in August, 16th of August. Unfortunately, there wasn't much time to celebrate. We had a bit of a rain event on that weekend, so the priorities changed quite quickly. But I did just want to talk to the fact that the goal for us, in regards to getting this award, was just getting industry recognition to the partnership that we have, and also to the district as well. Obviously, with the right backing from both organisations and having the right people in a collaborative partnership like what we have, really shows that it can work and do wonders for any district. So the submission that Malua put together and the interview that Hamish and myself had with the judges, I think they definitely recognise that. And yeah, obviously we've got a great outcome. So yeah, and it's great recognition for the team as well, especially after what they've been for over the last 18 or so months now from the Cyclone. So yeah, we're really pleased to get that. Yep. And just in regards to going into the new NRTP period, key thing for us is we had a workshop, just a one-day workshop in August, just to talk about how we're going to deliver well on this NRTP period and what basically we need to do to make sure that we've got basically the right things in place in regards to succession planning for the staff that's within the Alliance team, making sure that we've got the right systems and processes in place to make sure that we have a really good NRTP period and deliver on everything that we said we're going to through the strategy. So yeah, we're just working on basically what the outcomes are going to look like from that. And we're going to use the strategy to essentially guide our performance framework in regards to what KPIs we have in the framework so that it gives really good direction to the team. So so that's really the purpose of that. I'll hand it over to Andrew from a network management perspective.
Thanks, Dan. So yeah, I suppose we've had the NLTP budgets confirmed now. The last 2 meetings, I think I've been talking on the indicative budgets where we were assuming the money was going to be applied to. There were a few surprises that came through in the end when we got the actual figures, the letter and access into the NTTA funding system. So overall, we have had a reduction on our bid of a reasonable significant amount of funding, and it hasn't been applied as a percentage across the board. It's been targeted at certain areas of the, I suppose, the activities we perform, and largely in lining with the GPS for Transport with the direction of the Pothole Prevention Fund side of things. So we did very well in our pavement maintenance renewal activities. We were largely fully funded from what was workshopped as part of the AMP development. And the key hits, I suppose, we've taken are in some of the more what I suppose some people can consider nice to do activities within the program. So obviously we've talked about footpaths last month, but we've also had the changes in things like signage as well, which we weren't expecting. So we are working currently through the budget figures literally like yesterday, the day before, to actually see what that looks like in terms of the actual level of service we can deliver. In terms of what was workshopped within the council and what the mixed profile that was submitted as part of the AMP, there has been some changes of what we can actually do because they have locked down some budgets. So we can't move money around to support functions that previously we have been able to do. So yeah, I suppose that's the government strategy, is to actually make sure the money's getting invested into the roads as opposed to things like sweeping and making things look pretty. Overall, so there's a bit of data, I suppose, a bit of detail in the report. Is there anything specifically that anyone wants to talk through based on what has been provided?
Right. I'll take Councillor Long first and then Sharon and Scott. You're not here?
Yeah. First of all, congratulations on winning the title. Really, congratulations. Great job done. The council in the long-term plan made a decision a year ago, I think some time ago, to increase the expenditure on drainage to protect roading pavement. And it looks like there's a 40 or 55% reduction in there. How's that going to impact on, one, our decision at that time, and two, where's the impact going to be on the roading itself?
That was one of the surprise areas that took us off guard a little bit. Essentially, from what I've during the workshop side of things, I wasn't involved in the workshop, so I've been backtracking a bit of the information. But from what I understand and what I've picked up in the data I've gathered, is over the next 6 years, we were working to clear the backlog of poor condition culverts. So culverts that were there's steel culverts around the network which are rusting out. There's old terracotta tile type pipe work around there. The plan was to start replacing them over the 6 years, and so essentially we can't do that now, and we're basically to the bare minimum upgrade. And so that our current strategy is to our previous strategy was to upgrade culverts alongside pavement rehabilitation, the reseals, because you could maximize the opportunity for those sites and you wouldn't have to go back to those sites for another 15 years essentially. So we're shifting back into that strategy because that's what the funding essentially is allowing us to do. In terms of the drainage maintenance, which is the water table clearing and the general drain maintenance, that's the one that I'll probably, from my point of view, I'm pretty disappointed that actually didn't come through, because for our network, that actually stops potholes. I have met with our investment advisor last week to raise that concern, and we are looking, I suppose, at opportunities to re-establish that budget. Whether we can so there's two things within this NLTP: is the reseal category and the rehabilitation category was seen as quite, I suppose, what we promoted it as the needs. NZTA saw that as initially as it's not, they don't necessarily see it, and that's based on historical. You look what's happened on the state highways, they've let it deteriorate and they've done minimal intervention, but the government's changed that. So essentially they've given us the money to do it, but without the drainage budget to support it, we're going to be potentially doing lower quality work in those activities. If you do a reseal, it's a 15-year life cycle, that's locking that lower quality work in for 15 years essentially. So I am talking to the investment advisor, and there's with promoting the idea that we do move some of the reseal money into the drainage renewal money, just to make sure we're actually we can do the quality work that we need to do. Have been informed of about additional funding that does sit in the wings of NZTA that may become available. So we're going to build a bit of a, I suppose, a business case to support that, to give us a bit more strength. So if money does come available, it is there. The money's been approved in the long-term planning process for the local share, because that happened before the NZTA budgets got locked in. And I've advised essentially Sarah Walsh to make sure that we don't just, that money is just held for in reserve if we need it, and we do get this money in the next few months. But yeah, essentially the drainage one was my biggest shock, because that was what I thought was getting supported. And yeah, so
My biggest concern also. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks. You've indicated here, Andrew, that the Cyclone Gabriel funding isn't in these figures. Given the direction in the approval or non-approval of our funding, are the implications for, perhaps in the cyclone funding, it would have been about replacing the clay pipes, and it would have been about extending the drainage and doing that. Are they wanting us to apply those same principles into the Gabriel money? And you're shaking your head. My next question is there some flexibility? That money might. I'm just wondering, that package is locked and you're not able to.
So the emergency works funding is very site specific funded. If there is a direct connection to the fault that was caused by drainage infrastructure and it's required to complete the job, yes, we can upgrade it. The cyclone funding is essentially been approved, so we do have that money there, and we do have our second round of funding for Cyclone Gabriel in principle has been approved. We've been given 1 year allocation at this point in time, but the application has been approved, and essentially there is a contingency amount in that sum, and it's what if we don't get, I suppose, further deterioration of the current faults, there will be a reserve there, which in theory.
No further questions. Thank you, Chief Steve.
The other probably one I just want to highlight is the low cost, low risk budget. While that's activities that previously was the Road to Zero type funding, but it also supported like pavement widening and upgrades while we were doing pavement rehabilitations. So generally, when we've got a lot of our narrow roads, and particularly thinking about the one that we talked about last meeting down at South Pongaroa, The widening of that formation would have been funded under the low cost, low risk program. We've got zero. So, yeah. Further to the budget side of things, footpath one, I think that's further in the pages, but essentially we have been doing the bit of the work in the background to identify what we can do with the footpaths now. I met with Hamish and then Dan this morning about what that looks like. The biggest, and what page is that before we get off track? On page 21, that's this expenditure that we spent for the last 3 years on footpaths. And the one item that I want to raise as for consideration is the footpath Main Street water blasting. That's an activity that we complete in Woodville and Dannyburg 3 times a year currently. 6 times a year, and we can reduce that frequency. It is a level of service decision, but it is a big consumer of the budget that we have for footpath maintenance. So
Councillor Scott.
Chair Steve. Yeah, thanks guys. That jumped out at me as well, and I can see how high that budget is. What from your perspective, especially if there's a potential recommendation for us to reduce that, what would the outcomes be if that was reduced? What would the consequences of that potentially be?
So through you, Chair. So as far as I guess the expectation regards the level of service from particularly the shop owners along the main street, we with the six times a year cleaning, we still generally get CRMs and phone calls to say, you know, it's starting to get dirty and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I certainly think that would certainly get a negative response from the likes of the shop owners in regards to the deterioration of the, I suppose, cleanliness of the main street footpaths. We do recommend that, although we need to reduce this, we propose looking at maybe a frequency of 2 times a year, or with an allowance maybe a 3rd time a year if a particular incident or situation occurs, so that when we're looking at major events that are happening on the main street, such as Christmas parades and things like that, that we can still you know, have it tied out for events like that, but there will definitely be a deterioration.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, absolutely. Can imagine we'll get comment on that. Would there be any safety concerns if it was reduced? So build up of like another sort of stuff that's a key sort of thought that I had.
Through your chair. So as far as the safety concern, I suppose the short answer would be there could be a concern around you know, build up of grime, which could potentially cause slippery surfaces. But I guess from our side as well, or just another point to look at is with the current approval of budgets, there's a safety concern of that, but then there's also a safety concern on the other side about how much we're actually going to be able to repair with a good portion of that going out of the cleaning. So yes, I suppose that's the juggling act that we're trying to work through at the moment.
Fair enough.
Cheers, Steve. Is it possible to like change? Is it like a full clean 6 times a year, or are we able to reduce like to spot clean or something like that? You know, like I'm just thinking instead of like cleaning the whole lot 6 times a year, could we just go and clean what gets dirty? I guess.
Yes, we could look at doing, I suppose, reactive cleans, and instead of having a programmed frequency like we do now. Certainly an option that we can look at and come back to the committee in regards to whether that's a potential level of service that we can do. Because to be fair, I mean, that's very similar to what we're looking at for the rest of the network in regards to we fix safety or react to essentially safety repairs on network instead of doing planned program renewals. So yep, we'll look at that.
Because it's actually running at 70,000 a clean at the present time. Okay, 70. If you divide 600 70 times 6.
So
2.
418,000.
Yeah.
By
Six.
18 is
Six per year. So
6.
3 years.
yeah, it's a 3-year cycle. It's
18.
I didn't see the 3. That's good. That's better. I was starting to think. I'll go and get a steam cleaner. Right. So, yeah, no, that's a good point the team's making here about regarding, because we have to be reactive. And as we all know, we're in those constraints. Me, Tracy.
Thank you, Chair Steve. I just wondered if this is an opportunity, if you're coming back with some of those options, if we could talk to the Danny Burke Community Board, Positively Woodville and the Chamber of Commerce and actually, talk to them about this, the implications, the way that we communicate this and any potential impacts and bring that back to the next meeting so that we can, just, I guess, share their views on the level of service and communicate that out well.
That section.
So just jumping back, so apologies for it, jumping back one page. I've noted that we did our drive over with the NZTA Investment Advisor last week. That was to review all the resale program and the rehabilitation program for this year. I'm pleased that has gone very well and we've had very positive feedback for the program we'd presented. Previous years, based on the NZTA idea of sweating the network side of things, we didn't go well in our rehab space, but we've had basically got a 1.5 years worth of rehabs now approved as part of that drive over, which was, pleasantly surprising given that we've rehabs always one of a they've always challenged us on the past about when we should be doing them, but yeah, we've got a good forward works program out of that right now, and we're currently working on getting year one or next year's resales locked in as well. So we've got the draft program of that, and in the next few months we will be driving over with NZTA for that as well. So yeah, positive in that space, which then basically locks in the large part of our pavement drainage program going forward for the next 2 years once we get them done. So yep, probably good feedback from NZTA. So further on from that then, we have the Victoria Avenue Bridge discussion to continue. My report does not have the option area report that I provided. Has that come through with anyone's?
Oh.
I can talk through it. Essentially, we've gone through it and looked at the available options we've got there. Option, I believe, 1, the gold-plated, probably standard, is to build a pedestrian bridge off the side of the bridge. We probably know what that's going to cost, so I've discounted that one. The next 2 are the options to actually form a walkway on the bridge. One includes basically changing into a single lane priority give way approach. So basically would put a priority give way sign on the a give way sign on the end. And in the town side, there'd be the priority give way, and then you'd basically have a very open, wide footpath, pedestrian path to provide basically safety for the pedestrians. The other one is to slim it down very narrow and give a narrow footpath for the pedestrians, which from a safety point of view requires that bikes and small children stay in a meter lane and runs the risk of a car coming up behind them. And the other one is just put up some signs and hope that the pedestrians manage themselves. So from a risk point of view and a liability point of view, our preference is the priority give way system. It is a bit of a change to what is seen through the public, but I suppose from a risk profile point of view, that is the best option, low cost option, I suppose we see. Keen to have a bit of feedback on that, just to, given it's going to be probably a political bit of public feedback from it.
Councillor Long.
Through you, Chair. Sorry, I couldn't see the pedestrian count. What's the number of people using this and also cars? Is it in there somewhere?
But we haven't captured the pedestrian count. As such, I'm working to get some pedestrian counters out there so we can actually put them on the bridge and along with some other footpath. So we've got around there, we want to monitor it. But it's an unknown factor at this point.
Just subsidiary to that, can you also just let us know the number of children and adults so that we could work out the safety? Adults, I'm hoping they use their common sense, whereas children might be different. I just want to know the number of children.
Yeah, that part will be a little bit tricky without having somebody sit there and determine whether a pedestrian is a child or an adult. So they can certainly try and get some numbers, but I wouldn't count on the demographics of those people. Thank you.
Councillor Peter.
Thanks, Chairman. Steve. This has been operating for some time now, hasn't it? Have there been any deaths or near deaths or accidents there? Near misses? There have. How many?
One that I'm aware of.
It's a very short bridge. It's only about 3 metres long. Isn't it?
20.
Not, I mean, it
It's a single span bridge.
take you seconds to walk across it. Seems to me that option 4, for me, would be the logical one, but I bow to the more safety conscious people in the room and go for 3, which is, I guess, the one you're suggesting. If it was high traffic area, different story, but it's not.
Steve, so I guess the issue we have that is as soon as there's a risk identified, we become liable through the Health and Safety Act, and it's PCBU operating it. So we have to take some action there regardless, and we certainly wouldn't be waiting for a fatality before making some action. And misses are enough to spur us into action somewhat, and unfortunately it will set a precedent for the other bridges that are in a similar scenario in that part of town.
Just before I go to you, Scott, could I ask you a question on that? If the walkway wasn't there, would this still be caused? Like, this is a nice to have. Walkways are a nice to have in this financial climate. Because we've got a walkway going down Victoria Avenue, Princess Street, Cadman Street, Smith Street, we've got lots of streets with walkways around them. The basic question, is a walkway a nice to have?
I'll try. Yeah, I perhaps won't answer that part, but I'd certainly say a walkway up to a hazard requires us to take some intervention.
So if the walkway wasn't there, you wouldn't have to take the hazard. That's what I was trying to find out. So that's something to put in the mix. Right, we're up to Councillor Scott.
Thanks, Chair Steve. I take your point on that. Just a very quick comment. I guess there'd be a big expense in ripping up the walkway if we looked at doing that. But I just want to pick up, if I may, some Councillor Johns's comments, because that sort of jumped out at me a little bit as well, trying to understand how we've gone through and rated the risk. It does seem to me it would be quite difficult to rate the risk if we don't have pedestrian and vehicle counts as of yet, and then knowing the number of near misses that we might have. What I would prefer is that we do take a sensible risk-based approach. I absolutely understand what Hamish was saying about, we become liable. However, when I look at that, seeing it being ranked as likely, if it is really low, and if we did have even a small painted strip, I'm curious at how that was rated without having those pedestrian vehicles.
So, in regards to the risk rating, it's without the table, sorry, I didn't have the report in front of me. The way it works is essentially there's a probability and severity. And so the guidelines that we've got in there are from the NZTA Safe Systems Risk Assessment. So the likelihood of, in the current scenario, with nothing in there, the likelihood of pedestrians being on the bridge is extremely high. We know we've got pedestrians on the bridge, we know we've got traffic, and they're mixing with live lanes. So we need to bring that down to essentially, I believe it's the M, is high, medium, low. Essentially, when it's in the high, it needs to be treated. When it's in the M, there is a bit of, I suppose, engineering type thing, you can manage it. But essentially, right now in the situation, it is likely there will be pedestrians on the bridge with live traffic. So that's where the likely has come from. The consequences of the impact is severe. So then you step back from that. Putting the signage up. The signage doesn't treat the problem of pedestrians on the bridge with live traffic, so it's still there. It's relying on a child walking on there, reading the sign and actually stopping. And the biggest concern is people coming up from behind, coming into town, when you've got pedestrians going into town as well, where they can't see behind them. So the car might be looking at the car there and miss the pedestrian, and there's no way for the pedestrian to get off the bridge. Whereas typically, if it was an open road, they could jump onto the shoulder. So then going to the third option I've got there, which is the narrow footpath. It's basically the discussion about whether we can trust the pedestrians to stay in their lane. The other caveat to that is the road formation itself is actually too narrow. It's a 5.2 metre wide sealed carriageway, and the minimum requirement for a road of that size is 5.5, and that's taken into account car width plus a safety factor in between the centre line. So there's literally, that leaves us with basically like a 600 mil walkway, and like I say, making sure a child stays in the walkway, making sure a cyclist stays in the walkway. That's what the risk we're trying to mitigate there.
Councillor Sharon.
Thanks, Steve. Ironically, this morning as I was driving in, I came down that road. I do it quite a lot. And there was a truck coming the other way from out of town. And I looked at the sign that said, now he's supposed to stop, not me. And sure enough, he did. And I drove happily onto there thinking this could easily be a single lane bridge. Because the challenge that we have, and you hinted at there, Andrew, was asking people to keep to their lane. Well, we've got all these flash walkways or not so flash walkways, and the number of people I still pass on Adelaide Road, on the road, walking with their kids and pushchairs and everything else. So we can't change that. My question is, if we were to spend the 15 to 20K that you're indicating here, be it a silver or a bronze, where's that money coming from? I'm just asking, is it in our LTP?
With the typically would come from the footpath maintenance budget.
Oh, really?
This is getting into the space of, I suppose there's surplus funding that was available that was approved through the LTP. If we committed to it, that's probably where we would need to fund this item from. If we want to say footpaths are going to sacrifice, because well, it could be track for services, so there is an opportunity to move into that, but essentially it's signage and line marking, which could be covered by that. But essentially we're doing footpath. So
But something else will have to go.
yeah. With both the budgets that we would, from an NZTA point of view, we would get them funding from, have both been restricted. One more than very significantly so.
You, Tracy.
Thanks, Chair Steve. I just thought I'd comment around the must-have and the wants. You know, all the walkways that we do have within the district are because they have been community-led and they've been something that the community has wanted. Sometimes council gets a bit of a bad rap for being involved or setting the rules and some guidance around that. But actually, when these assets are built, they then turn to council's responsibility to maintain. And if I think of the other walkways, and there's no budgets, when we look at that footpath budget, that's also where the spraying comes from for that walkway as well. So they're all factors that need to be considered. But if that walkway had gone through some of that process, that it wouldn't be encouraging pedestrians right up to a bridge, and that's the crux of the problem here. But what we're dealing with is is vehicle behaviour as well as pedestrian behaviour, and that who has the right of way and ensuring people's safety. But we have had one near miss and reported complaints. So I do think, councillors, we do need to ensure that we do have something with safety, but take the lesson from this going forward, that when we are having these things donated and fundraised through the community, that we have a look at the long-term maintenance and the safety of them.
Just on that, I couldn't agree more. That's what I was getting to about the nice to haves. I'm not knocking people doing walkways, but yeah, maybe the in-depth study done? And I wasn't involved when all this was happening. And I'm not asking you guys was it or wasn't, but how do we prevent this from happening in Paeatua, Eketahuna, Woodville, or Northwood, or Ormondville? They're going forward, exactly what Mayor Tracy was just saying, because as you know, the coffers are quite empty on nice to haves, and as Hamish said, it's now a legal responsibility on us. So yeah, I'll let you carry on. Sorry, should I ask, was there ever any consultation with you guys first on the nice to haves?
Through you, Chair, yes, there was consultation through that. But as Mayor Tracy said, it's a learning for us around trying to be probably supportive, almost too supportive, around getting a community project completed. So going forward, as far as the question goes about how this is going to be managed going forward, it will be through basically our corridor management team, as far as making sure that anyone looking at installing any asset that's going to be visited to council, that it is following basically our essentially design engineering standards that it's going to be put in place to ensure that it's built to the standard that we need it to be for when it's essentially invested to council.
Yes, because why I mentioned that, I know there was a movement in Akatea about a seawall out there, and that was going to be the same problem if they did it. Then we ended up owning it. In the end, they wanted to gift it to the council, but I remember going out there that day and the young guys just said, "Oh, we can make the seawall. We'll do it all, and you guys can have it." And then it's the same scenario, but in a different application. I mean, people mean well for us. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not knocking well-to-do people, trying to do well for our district. But yeah, it's the unexpected consequences to us legally going forward. Anyhow, carry on, sir. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So are we deciding which gold, silver, bronze we would take? When I think about it, I'm inclined to go with the silver, considering if we've looked at the district plan and the rezoning of the possibility of rezoning the Adelaide Road and stuff, there's going to be probably more traffic along there. So if you're thinking about safety, well, yeah, there is an actual need for the silver, a single lane or something, and it actually, the severity outcomes is minor and acceptable and it's green. But if we do the bronze, we're still in the serious and further treatment needed. So my option would be for us to go with the silver, considering if we're forward thinking about the possibility of rezoning some of that area, there's going to be more traffic and more kids walking that road.
Thank you, Councillor Peter.
Thanks, Chair Steve. I move option. Well, I was going to move option bronze, but I'm happy to go with option silver. So I'll move option silver. We could be here all day talking about this.
I have a seconder on that option, Silver, Erina. So it's been moved by councillor Peter and seconded by Erina. All those in favour? Carried. It's going to be Silver. Thank you, sir. Carry on.
Thank you for that. It does get I suppose, get a resolution to a bit of a tricky topic we've had there, along the way. So yeah, we'll move on. So further report, I suppose emergency works, we are starting to kick into gear with that now, in terms of the, I suppose, spring, summer work program. Obviously the weather's finding up, the days are getting warmer. So Blake and his team are kicking into action and starting to get some of the larger projects up and running. We have been putting out to the subcontractor panel additional packages of work over the last month, which have got a few of them awarded, with another probably 4 coming out this month to secure the contractors from the supply panel. You will be aware that August has been a bit challenging with weather around the district. On the 1st of August, we had a bit of a weather bomb hit out this way, which we had a bit of, I suppose, damage. We had Naparu Road closed to heavy traffic with the slump you can see in the picture on page 22. And then further on the 18th, alongside with the flooding in Paitua, we've had the southern part hit as well, and we've got a few, I suppose, issues that have been developing in that. We're working through another funding application for emergency works with NZTA right now to make sure we get ahead of the potential reduction in funding with that, which, so we've got that lodged sitting there. We're building up the value of it right now. I believe it's sitting at about $2.9 million of damage, but we will be looking through that with a fine tooth comb, given we've got approval from Cyclone Gabriel, which I do believe there's a few duplicates of sites through it. So we've already got funding approved. We don't want to go and get more funding just for the sake of funding if we've already got it largely covered off under the other events. But yeah, essentially, the weather's warming, beautiful day outside, and hopefully we can start some sealing soon as well.
Can I just say before we go, you guys go, that drive over we did with that page on page 25, 26, depending on where you're looking. Yeah, that willow brush. Yeah, it's quite cool seeing natural. And then they used to do it in the old days or something. It was set out there on that site meeting. Yeah. Yes, no. So you know, keep up the good work, and congratulations too from. If Kerry was here, he would definitely be backing you. So, congratulations on you. You look good in a suit too, woman. Right, we'll carry on.
Yep.
Right. We now call on Roger and Marcus, please.
Yeah, me and Tracy, councillors, taking the report as read. Marcus has joined me today to cover off a number of the topics in case there are any questions. So unless you have anything else, Mr. Chair, open to any questions councillors may have.
Councillor Scott.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to, and thank you guys for the report and for some of the comprehensive info around the Pahiatua flood or surface flooding event. Really handy, and I think that'll be really valuable for our community. One question jumped out at me. There has been quite a lot of commentary online, and I've heard it directly from people as well, suggesting that if the drains had been cleared out more frequently, that the event wouldn't have happened. Now, as I'm looking through this and from some of the other information I've seen, that seems unlikely. But what I'd like to know is if we increase the level of service on the drain, would that have made a meaningful difference if we had a higher level of service?
Jump in there. Highly unlikely. Is the short answer. How many times do you attend a drain? Somebody throws things into the drain. Some maintenance occurs around the garden, stuff falls into the drain. You could go there every single day and clear things out. The upshot is the drain is just not up, it does not have the capacity to deal with the flow. Simple as that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, and I mean, we do have to remember it was a very significant rainfall event. The other one I just wanted to just get a little bit of comment on is there has been some discussion about some of the grates that are within the drainage system, and that they did and they have in the past got blocked very quickly, and they can be quite hard when we're in a flooding event to be able to clear. Quite concerned about potentially some of the safety risks to residents who, trying to protect their properties, are jumping into a drainage system during a live event and having to clear those out. Is there any thoughts or consideration given to, if we are forewarned that there's a significant rainfall event, that we can, have, I know they're there for safety reasons, but we can have those opened prior to stop the blockage of the flow of water?
The grates are effectively fixed. You could put a mechanism in that you go and lift those, a chain system or something like that. We have considered even putting cameras, CCTV cameras, reasonably cheap IoT versions that you can keep an eye on those grills and just see if there is constrictions. But usually when we have a heads up that we've got a storm weather event coming in, then the crews will go out and automatically clear those grills up front. But
I just have one very last one.
Thanks for indulgence,
That's all right.
Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. I suppose and I appreciate that we could be looking at it prior to the event. I suppose what happens in those events is debris travels and collects. And I believe that was, from some people's perspective, part of the problem: debris traveling and then collecting in those grates. So if they had been cleared out before, very, very, very quickly, it would have, become blocked or jammed because of the way the grates are designed. So I'm not actually asking for an answer right now, but I suppose more of a request: is that something that can be looked into further to see if there are any solutions to that? Thank you.
We went for a drive down there and had a look. Yeah, and the way the land's laid out, and the comment this morning about what's happening every 2 years now, we're in a different world. When that was originally, it was fit for purpose, but we're in a different world now. And historically, that's what we've got. And we'd liked, but yeah, it's naturally downhill, that road. And water I've never seen water run uphill yet. Right, we'll carry on. Any further questions? This is good work. Oh, Councillor Peter.
Thanks. Hamish, you did get to talk to Peter Field at the day or two after that event. He bailed me up the day of the event, concerned about what had happened and what hadn't happened over a number of years. And he's had about 40 years of history on that Halls Road section particularly. But I just wondered whether what he had to say, whether that was of any value to you in terms of his thoughts about remediating the situation?
Through you, Chair. Yes, absolutely. It was great to get his perspective on the scenario there. And I think back to my previous time at the Alliance, and Marcus and I had a really good look at a report from, I think, 1991 that described this exact scenario, the engineers at the time trying to figure out how on earth to deal with it. So it's unfortunately not a new issue, but the work that Marcus and the team have been doing since that event happened have a couple of quite potential plausible sort of options available. So we're hoping to bring another paper back to probably this meeting, and hopefully the next meeting, with some opportunities there. But we just need to flesh them out a little bit further before we can sort of talk specifics, which will hopefully address some of the Halls Road challenges as well as the Huxley Street challenges. So. Nice. Yes.
Any further questions? Yeah. Councillor Wards, please.
I was, thanks, Chair, Steve. I was reflecting on the water supplies at Pongaroa and Akatio that are reflected here in the report. Is there, appreciate it's more an infrastructure one. Is there any progress being made with, because Christmas is, someone said to me the other day, 99 days away. I know, and you know where I'll be, worrying. So I know the intention had been around water storage notices and stuff to our folk out there. Is there still an intent to do some education? Because I thought that was planned for round about now.
That's the intent, Sharon. It'll be just passing that on to someone to pick that up. We do have the utilities engineer role filled with effect next Monday, and one of the tasks will be the replacement of that pipeline at Akatio. So that's definitely on the list in terms of wanting to get that done before Christmas. So, yeah.
Just on that subject, did we find out about the people, were all the people compliant with their tanks at Akatea? Because that was seemed to be an issue last year.
That's what I was referring to.
Yeah.
That we'd identified there was an issue with non-compliant people out there that possibly should have had their own tanks but haven't. And so part of the strategy was to begin to get the compliance and regulatory team involved to educate them as to.
Then I'll take that as an understanding that nothing's been done yet.
That's correct. Nothing's been done yet.
Any further questions? Any further comments? We're all happy. Great. Carry on. Thank you. We're calling on Joe now, please.
Sorry, the question is read.
So recently, hot off the press, Joe's been doing a bit of analysis work that she'll share next time round. But it looks like the costs for self-delivery at the moment are bettering those than the previous contractor. So we're coming in the black, which is a great place to be so far. So well done, Joe. Keep it up. Yes.
Yeah, it was only kind of an estimate and guesswork with last round where we might land. And I figured just a bit of a give and take, I figured we would land roughly, but I wasn't sure until I actually had a full month of numbers. Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
those numbers are impressive. So, going backwards, we'll have the historic numbers. No, for what Joe's doing now, because especially the landfill and the tonnage that we took out of town beforehand, the new regime kicked in, just to, so we can certainly see the gold star standard that you're implementing down there, and the savings to our council really, which is the ratepayer of Dennyburg.
Absolutely, and that's certainly the plan. And the 17A review that's due in the next couple of months will highlight that pretty clearly as to where we are, where we potentially could head to, and what it'll take to get there. So,
Good work. Keep it up. Any further? Oh, Erin, please, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair Wallace. Joe, I just wanted to ask, the first part of your paper, the waste diverted from landfill, 1.7 tonne, and then you've got contaminated recycling to landfill 2.5. How's that worked out? Because I don't know, I look at it as waste diverted from landfill, that's like all the recycling that you've done for the month, but I think I've got that wrong.
Okay, that's so the waste diverted from landfill is actually what's actively pulled out of it's come in as general waste over the weighbridge, and it's actively been pulled out of the general waste pile and diverted to, so where there's steel items, or we can't necessarily sort of be pulling out bottles and stuff because you get, you got a health and safety risk behind getting in there and rummaging, but it's what they can sort of obviously see from the outside. They're pulling out, they've got the diversion bins next to the pit that can go in, put a whole lot of steel in there and then move it around to the steel pile. But we have everything go across the weighbridge. And of course, the contaminated recycling to landfill is actually what's visually noted and pulled out from the pile that's dumped out of the truck. So the 2 yard stuff basically scour through again. They pull out all the obvious that they can see. They don't sort of rummage through every little bit. It's what they pull out and actually put over the weighbridge. So basically, the recycling is one side of the roadbridge, the rubbish is the other. So of course it's got to cross to get to the other side. So we weigh it. So it's basically what we've actively moved from one to the other. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
And I can actually work out over the whole last, for the financial year, I think it was 35 tonne that we'd actually diverted from landfill by actively pulling stuff out. I know it's not a hell of a lot, but it was just a picture of what could actually be done. Yeah.
Could I ask you just on who is the 3R group on the tyre thing?
3R Group is a business that, they basically look after, they do consulting stuff as well, and take care of the chemicals. They've actually got a chemical, got them down as one of the contacts for chemicals if people have them, to give them a call. But they've jumped in on the TireWise scheme for MFE. And they're managing the TireWise scheme. So 3R on behalf of the government.
Because as I understand it, Dannyburg is not registered to take brake fluid and coolants and all that.
We've got nothing within Taurua to take care of any chemicals, or that's why we put them onto either 3R Group or Ag Recovery. Yeah, and that's our A to Z what goes where on the website has actually got those contact details. We'll either have 3R Group or Ag Recovery to contact for if you've got any of that sort of stuff. And I've got the guys at the transfer stations actively looking out for anything such as, because we have had something dropped off next to the oil. Yeah. So oil will be going opposite the kiosk when we get to do the division segregated bays under the waste levy funding stuff. We'll actually be putting that stuff right under the nose of kiosk operators so that they can see what's been dropped off.
Thank you. Any further questions, Joe? Thanks for your report. Done. Mike? Right, Michael. Mike? Oh, we need a mover and seconder for this. I'll have Naomi, please, and Erina. All those in favour? Aye, carried. Floor is yours, Michael. Mike?
Thank you, Chair. Interesting councillors, here to present the programs and projects report. What I can go into here is just having, I'll take the report primarily as read again. There's a couple of things I'll touch on and I'll be happy to step through each one of those projects as we go through. One of the pieces I want to touch on in the schedule is that, with a few of the other pieces that have been happening operationally, it's obviously created some sort of extra work in those spaces. So there are some sort of delays, but we are working through those. And again, the main focus is ensuring that we action our long-term plan and asset management plans. So a couple of them again, like we're working through the budgets as we go through them, which we may be doing wastewater inflow and infiltration, universal water metering. We're having a few other ones that are coming to the council on the Dannevirke and Banner Supply. So that's where those ones currently are. We're tracking well with states as well as our project risks. Nothing else at the moment is currently out of the ordinary for those. So I'm happy to go through from 7 Stop project updates, but subject to any questions.
Councillor Wood.
Just a quick comment. Thanks, Chair Steve. I bet you wish the picture in 5.1 was the picture all the way through.
I would love that.
Councillor Peter.
Thanks, Chair Steve. Yeah, Mike, district town signs. We lost them or something.
Oh, he comes.
No, we haven't lost them. Thank you. Andrew has a bit of information about it, so.
No, they're not lost. They are sitting in the shed across from our office, waiting to be put up. I have an engineering services manager once a week pulling out his hair in front of me as he is going back and forth with the NZTA for approval of locations. The last email that he had received was questioning whether we could put them outside of essentially the road reserve in the private land. And Ray has essentially requested that the person he's talking to come across and have a look at what the proposal is, because the safety risk that they are viewing is over and above what these actually signs present. So Ray's asked them to come to site, have a look and try and make a decision, because essentially they're trying to figure out where they can put them.
Why don't we just put them up?
I think we tried that.
We put some of them up and we've been knocked back by NZTA because of they don't believe the poles will fold over in a crash. But compare that to a guardrail terminal.
Oh, that's exactly next month.
So we're working on it as much as we can. But like I say, we've got bureaucracy, we're kind of working with NZTA, but let's get NZTA our friends as much as we can alongside them.
Appreciate
Very
Sorry, just through you, Chair, just like to add as well, it's like the project, I know that it's been ongoing for quite a while, but just as a refresh as well, we did hand this project over from an area that it was currently not, I guess, in the right area to be delivering that. We passed that on, it ended up going to Transport Management, which was Mark. He was onto it for a bit there. He's obviously since departed, and then we've obviously gone through another handover. So, but I think at the moment it is in the right area within the organisation, and they are working through it. So, a lot more confident in the delivery of this now.
You want it for 6 months?
Yeah. Especially if this conversations keep going that much.
Get some shovel and bags of concrete and just put my name on
Through you, Chair, the only other one that I'd like to touch on as well within the quick brief status updates is Woodville Wetlands. So it's been part of like one of the consent pieces. So we did a site visit with our engagement with Growth Horizons and our iwi partners. They're happy with that, and we're working through a concept design as well for that work as well. So that's tracking along quite well at the moment. The water metering has also been planned and scoped, and we're working through some of the finalisations of the contract. Yeah, but yep, that was going quite well. And everything else I think has been talked through and happy to step through step by step. But
Councillor Monk.
For you, Chair, just the Rakatai Bridge, when is the starting date for that to, and how long will it take to build, please?
So following developing the report, I did follow up with the contractor. I've got an indicative program of them starting on site mid next month. I believe the 16th rings a bell. And I believe it was a 6-week build period, so it's relatively quickly. So we are on track to have it completed on time. What we've stated is before Christmas. So, yeah.
I've got one here. It's really good. Right, it's gone. Carry on. Any further questions? Oh, yes, I did. Many years ago, or 2 years ago, we were talking about metering. Triggered me. We were going to get. Well, I know but he's gone. To do with the meters of the laterals. Do we ever get anything going forward on that? Probably you're not the person to ask. Maybe might have to go back to Roger, but that was the lateral meters.
Can you specify which laterals, Mr. Chair?
As far as I know, what we were led to believe that all that, the new SCADA and everything has got a meter on it and so forth. And the laterals going out from the reservoir went out to 4 laterals. Exactly which ones they were going to come back to us and tell the board here how it was all looking. So we were, as being board members, we're just trying to. Yeah, I've never ever received one. It's just a question on my mind when I saw the water metering. It triggered me. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Chair Steve. I think what he means is when Chris Chapman was here, he put bulk meters on. What they were trying to determine was whether or not there was where water was going missing. So, for argument's sake, we were looking at, I think, what's the road? Yeah, Laws Road, potentially, and it was going to be out on the state highway that the bulk meter was, so that they could measure it from so they could work out where it was going wrong. And as I understood it, there was about 4 of them put in. Don't know where.
There's one up T-Papic or Cowper Road, because I've forgotten his name. Sorry, the chap was with you. He was Marcus. Yeah, I was down there chatting to him one day. Yeah, so no, it was a great idea, but yeah.
So you're expecting a report of what the water's usage was? Is that correct? Or
correct from this? From my understanding, the board was told that we would implement this so we could understand the actual network from a board's point of view, and then we could also trigger from those laterals, from what I was led to believe, where that usage was, i.e. a certain dairy farm down a certain road, et cetera, for the sustainability. Because remember, we were in crisis at this stage, and we were looking at preventative measures, and maybe because it was leading to they had consent to actually take water from another supply. Right. But anyhow, that's historic. It's just that it was triggered, and I thought, well, I'll ask the question while you're in the room. That was all. Thank you.
I'll relay that question to Marcus, and we'll just clarify what has been installed, and then I can get back to council.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Council.
I might spend a bit of time over the weekend, see if I can find the report and the agenda at the time. because it was something we were really seriously concerned about because the amount of water that was going missing and nobody knew where it was going. So that was the whole thrust behind it.
Sorry.
Aspects of it was that it needed to be in around time to actually for the data to be of use. So I'm at that point that we're just sort of building on a couple around the district, and then over time be able to see that. So I feel like we've asked Marcus this question already, but I can't remember his answer on this, so we'll come back to you.
You, Chair, Steve. Thanks, Brian. So I gather from that, we'll know, say it's Aerodrome Road, I think there's one there. We know how much water's gone down that road over a given period of time, and we know what's been used by the metered users down the road, and whatever the difference is being lost somewhere. That's the sort of information. That's been probably a couple of years since we did that. I thought we might have some information by now.
Just two other considerations. One will be whether they're metered or not. So not everyone is metered. So that's just one consideration. The other thing which Marcus is just putting in place now is to do some leak detection prior to Christmas. So just look across all the 4 major urban areas, and they're going to do more expansive detection than they've done before to look at those more rural connections, primarily to work out whether we're losing water. But that will also help in terms of reducing that demand and hopefully we're wanting to either pick up leaks, or that means there's unmetered users. So those would be the two conclusions that I'm assuming that we'd arrive at as a consequence of that work. But that says just putting that in place now.
Just rounding up on that from what the CE said and yourself, we're basically just looking for a time frame, really. We talked 24 months or 18 months. So now, if you don't put an end date on it, we'll just keep wandering. So yeah, maybe, and I don't know the constraints or the development on how far you guys are through. Maybe something can come back to us, Hamish, or who do I ask?
Through you, Chair. Certainly we can bring something back at the next, and it does feed into the universal water metering strategy work that's going on as the information we know at the moment, because that is the key part of it. So I think perhaps we'll just do a bit more detail on that particular project and try and bring back any information that we have to hand at that time.
Thank you, Hamish, because I know going into summer, we're going to have the same questions asked of us every year from our constituents. And as the board, we have to, have the answers. So thank you. Right, carrying right on. Any questions on, you got more to say? Sorry. No, anything on the sheets? Everyone's happy?
Yes. On the Three Waters Infrastructure Enhancement Project, DIA has approved that reallocation of the money, which is great. They're working through a couple of them, so the demand management plan and water conservation plan is currently still on schedule to be done by the end of this September. And they're working through a number of those other pieces at the moment as well. And by that, I mean like some of the invoicing and stuff and the claims back. So it all seems to be positive within that project at this current stage. Questions on that one? Or cool. Onto Woodville Headworks refurb. So there was a couple of pieces that are outstanding on that, as you note from the Amber. We have already worked through some of the budget requirements for it, and we've identified that we could look at doing it through an unplanned part, taking it as read. But again, still one of them is this was in place quite a while ago for the handover to have occurred. And in that, we noted that we needed to update the SCADA and telemetry to be included with the scope. So we've just been working through that. Again, we've resolved that issue and we'll be getting the update through. And the second issue is that the flow meter though was not actually working. So again, that's another issue, but we have again worked through that one and identified the budget to be used for it, and that has also been updated too. So we're not tracking any major delays to it, a few weeks at best. Fluoridation plant, everybody's favourite. Actually, though, the final engineers inspection, they actually were really happy with it and would like to have a look at using it for some of their own promotional material based on the output that they actually did, thinking that it looked really good. So anyway, that went well. So they're working through some of the commissioning of that. So again, we're just waiting out on that one if there's any further questions. No. Northwood Water Treatment Plant upgrade. So there's a couple of pieces that we're working through. One of those is the flushing program. The water though has definitely cleared up from what we're outputting now. We've seen some of the before and afters, so we're really happy with how that's working. There's a couple of pieces though that we're just working through. One of those is the UV and just trying to iron out the operation of those. And yeah, that's about it at the moment. It's looking really positive. So unless there's any questions on Northwood. I&I, so we did a highlight in here that we need to ensure good comms with the Ekatonia community. So Eugene actually visited the Ekatonia board the other week. That seemed really positive. He handed out some information about what I&I looks like and how that's going to progress. Everybody seems quite happy with that. So that was a positive outcome on that one. Cool. We hope to continue that one on as well. So. Ekatonia wastewater treatment plant upgrade. So the pipeline design is well underway. Dave, you want to say anything extra on Ekatonia if you wanted to? No? Seems to be tracking really well so far, yeah. I&I part there is obviously part of this works. And yeah, with the pipeline underway, looking really positive at the moment as how's that's going. So if there's any questions or cool. Charging ahead, Paeatua wastewater treatment plant. Go straight into all these. Yeah, so again, the design for the plant is underway and the design for the wetland is well underway. So everybody so far is tracking really well with that one. We've got another stakeholder engagement meeting tomorrow about the project. And keeping both our iwi partners and Horizons right on form. So yeah, no major issues with that at this current stage. Apart from I do have one in there as the culvert is inadequate for heavy construction traffic, and we looked at another option, and one of those is like a construction of some sort of small bridge. But we're working through that, and that is actually current indications significantly cheaper than the culvert. So again, working in our favour currently. So happy with that. That is my last sheet.
Thank you, Mike. Good work. Questions from the floor? Thank you. Who's Scott, second to Sharon. All those in favour? Gary.
Thank you.
Colours.
Mm. Well, I'm nearly getting as good as Kerry. So I now close the meeting at 2:18. Let's hope Kerry comes back tonight. So our thoughts are with Kerry. I don't know how far into his two-week holiday he got it though. So